Good evening, folks. This is Seekers of the Fallen podcast. Welcome to the portal. I'm Archie Mathis. And
Oh, I'm Brandon Wester. Sorry, I had you on the phone there, but
no
sorry,
problem.
we're getting this together, y'all. It's all good.
So tonight we're kind of finishing up what we were talking about our last episode with ancient technologies, and now we're kind of going into ancient artifacts. Last episode we talked about the pyramids, and I think we talked about the scientists that are recreating the dire wolf and those type of things. So now we're kind of talking about the Ark of the Covenant and the Shroud of Turin. So I'm going to start off about the Ark of the Covenant, which is a really neat artifact that I believe does exist. I believe that God did instruct the Israelites to build the Ark of the Covenant. And, discussing with you, Brandon, earlier about what the Ark of the Covenant is, a lot of people don't understand that the Ark of the Covenant is just not a box that certain artifacts were stored. It was much more than that. So, in my notes here, the Ark of the Covenant was 2 cubits and a half in length, and it was a cubit and a half in width, and a cubit and a half in height. Which, when you bring that into standardized measurements, it would be about 52 inches in length and 31 inches high and 31 inches in width. Width. So, and it was made out of geisha wood. It was made at the base of Mount Sinai, and it was covered inside and out with pure gold. And what we know from this is that the ark the ark stored the 10 commandments, so the commandments of God to the Israelite people. It also contains Aaron's rod, or Aaron's staff, which was Moses' brother, who was the high priest. And it also contains a jar of manna, which was the heavenly food that God blessed the Israelites with as they were in the desert for 40 years. So these are very distinct artifacts that are inside the Ark of the Covenant. And I believe that not only was the Ark of the Covenant that it was a box to house these artifacts, which are sacred artifacts to the Israelite people. But also, if you look at the Ark of the Covenant, and if you'll pull that up.
Oh yeah, and
Brandon.
just to kind of backtrack just a bit, the reason we kind of jumped from where we are to the with the dire wolf and stuff to the Ark of the Covenant was kind of the release of the CIA documents that they used remote viewing to find the Ark of the Covenant. With those recent release documents, I just wanted to throw that in there.
But I believe it was actually found before then by Ron Wyatt. But they wherever
Ron Wyatt's stuff is pretty wild. If y'all have some time, definitely check his stuff out. But here, I'll pull up this image real quick. There we go.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Perfect. So we have the Ark of the Covenant here. This is a representation of it. You have the 2 cherubim on top, and this cylinder piece here is what the Bible says is called the mercy seat. So not only was the Ark of the Covenant a storage box for these ancient relics, but it was also the throne of God. This is the representation of God's throne on earth. So that's why the Ark of the Covenant, when the Israelites were in the desert and they had the tabernacle, and that the Ark of the Covenant was always stored or housed in the Holy of Holies. And then after Solomon built the temple, which the temple is the actual physical representation of the tabernacle, which the tabernacle was tents that they could take down and travel with. And then, you know, Solomon built the temple that also had the Holy of Holies, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant was stored, was in the Holy of Holies. Now, again, this area right here would be considered the mercy seat. And we just talked about Ron White. Now, back in January 6, 1982, Ron Wyatt says that he actually found the Ark of the Covenant. They were pretty close to the crucifixion site of Jesus, and he discovered a small opening, and they did some excavating, and he was able to drop down about 60 feet into this opening, and he says that he discovered the Ark of the Covenant, and that there was an actual angel there guarding the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant was right underneath the crucifixion site of Jesus. And when he looked and did investigation of the Ark of the Covenant, there was actually blood from Jesus on the Ark of the Covenant. And I know people would say that's far-fetched, but it makes a whole lot of sense when you put it all together. So the Ark of the Covenant most likely was hidden in this area underneath the resurrection site of, or not the resurrection, I'm sorry, the crucifixion site of Jesus. And as Jesus was on the cross bleeding, his blood ran down the cross into the ground, down into this opening cave, and actually dripped onto the Ark of the Covenant, which would be the mercy seat in the throne of God, which would be a representation of Christ being God, as we study the triune God, the Trinity. And it would make perfect sense that this would be the area where the Ark of the Covenant would have been hidden, so to speak. And we do know through Ron White's testimony, he took a sample of the blood and did not tell anyone, but took it to a actual testing lab in Israel, and didn't tell them where he got the blood, but had them to do an analysis on it. And what they found out is that it had 24 chromosomes. Yeah. 23 from the mother
and 1 from the father.
Unknown, yeah, an unknown source.
Yeah.
And
nobody has 24 chromosomes.
Exactly. Nobody has 24. So, and through the analysis, the people that were doing the lab work asked him, or told Ron, how long has this blood been, exposed? Because this blood is actually still alive. So the blood was actually still viable, living blood.
The cells in the blood were not dead.
The cells in the blood were not dead. And that's when he admitted to them, this is the blood of your Messiah. This is the blood of Jesus Christ. Now, of course, Ron has documented all of this. Now Ron is passed away. I believe, Brandon, he does have a museum somewhere around Nashville.
Oh, really?
Because he was from Nashville, and
I know that.
Yeah, so that may be something that we need to look into. But he has
Absolutely.
a museum somewhere. It's in Tennessee somewhere. If it's not in Nashville, it's in Tennessee. But saying this, Ron is also the guy that discovered Noah's Ark, and he was a Christian archaeologist.
Well, yeah.
But
What was the mountain that Noah's Ark was on again?
Noah's Ark is on Mount
Ararat.
Ararat.
Yeah,
Ararat,
Ararat.
yes,
In Turkey.
yeah, in Turkey. So I believe that Ron is a viable witness and a viable archaeologist, and I believe in his story. I do believe his story.
I do too. I mean, he's a credible archaeologist.
Yeah,
I mean, he's founded uh, many things that have been contributed as far as like artifacts of antiquity, but these were probably his most famous finds. Now they try to discredit him because of his finds. That
mhm.
they said basically um, under the whole like law of extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. I I think that's all subjective. Like, what do you think is extraordinary? I mean, obviously this is extraordinary, but the evidence is what it is.
Yeah,
And
and
oh,
for sure, because after he exposed that he got the blood, or that the blood was from Jesus, he went to the Israeli authorities and told them where the Ark of the Covenant was. And he tried to
mhm.
go back to do some more digging and go back to the site to do some more research, and he found that there it was totally tapered off. There was Israeli armed soldiers guarding the facility, and they would not let him go back into that area. So I believe that the Ark of the Covenant is found and has
Mhm.
been found, and they're just for whatever reason keeping it secret until a later date. But
Well,
talking now,
I think the reason why is what we're about to go over is the capabilities of the Ark of the Covenant,
exactly.
which
So
you want to get into.
yeah, it's so incredible because here we have with my little arrow, we have the Ark of the Covenant, and it's made out of acacia wood, and it's basically it's solid gold in and out. So everything inside is solid gold. Everything on the outside is solid gold. So
Which
what?
in
What
itself it would be extremely difficult to do because it's not like you can pour that
exactly?
over wood because the heat of the metal would just disintegrate the wood.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the reason why geisha wood was used because it has a high burn point.
Okay.
So that's probably the reason why it was used. But when we take a hard look at the Ark of the Covenant, it's basically a capacitor because you have a conductor over an insulator, and that's the way modern day capacitors are built today. They're they're have some kind of conductor over an insulator, which causes it to store energy. So I think that God, in His infinite wisdom, dictated to the Israelite people on how to build this Ark of the Covenant. It shows God's intellect, but it also shows God's power. And what we see is that any time that the Ark of the Covenant was amongst the Israelite people, they flourished because, yet again, this is the representation of God's throne on earth.
Mhm.
So at some point in time, the Philistines attacked the Israelite people, and they stole the Ark of the Covenant. And for many years, they housed it, and they couldn't touch it because every time they touched it, they died. So they ended up basically giving it back, so to speak. They gave it back reluctantly. I can't remember the whole story. If during the battle they just kind of left it out where the Israelites came back and got it, but um, they couldn't touch it because every time they tried to go up and touch it, whoever was touching it, it died. They died. So the Israelites got it back. They stored it at a fellow by the name of Benadab. They stored it at his house, and for a number of years. And King David, they were going out to fight the Philistines, and they were having trouble in battle. And King David decided, hey, we need to bring the Ark of the Covenant into battle, which means God with us. God's going to go into battle with us. And when they went to this gentleman's house to get the Ark of the Covenant, and when they brought it into, as they were moving across the landscape, they had 2 oxen that was pulling a cart that the Ark of the Covenant was on, and Uzzah was one of the men that was commissioned to help move the Ark of the Covenant. The oxen stumbled, and it caused the Ark of the Covenant to shift on the cart, and he reached out to steady the ark, and when he did, he immediately died.
That's wild.
Because the only people that could touch the ark were the high priest that went through a cleansing process to go into the Holy of Holies to be able to do what they needed to do in the midst of the throne room of God to dealing with the Ark of the Covenant. So what we see is the priest garments. There was God gave specifics as to what the Israelite high priest was to wear, and if I'm not mistaken, at the end of their robe there was pieces of metallic ribbon. I don't want to say ribbon, but tassels that touched the ground, that when you think about it, it grounded them. So as long as they were clean, which meant, we know that dirt, dust is a conductor. As long as they were clean, because they had been through the cleansing process, now they're wearing their priestly robe, which now is grounding them. They can touch the ark without getting the voltage or the power.
That's wild.
Now, again, I'm breaking this down in simplicity, okay, so we can understand it. Do I believe there's a higher power that surrounds the ark as well? Absolutely. So I'm not condensing it down just to a simple, it's a simple capacitor. I'm saying that this is the divine intervention of God telling the Israelite people how to build the ark, and it's definitely a higher technology than they knew about. But I think there's more to it than that. I do believe that God's power is in and through the ark as well. But it makes sense when we think about the priest and what they wore and the ceremony that they had to perform to be able to go into the room with the ark. And there's been many accounts in the Bible that when the high priest would cross the threshold going into the Holy of Holy, they could feel the presence, the energetic presence of God in the room, in the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
So
some people describe it as your whole body's vibrating.
Correct.
From what I've heard.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's definitely what that would be, because of the energy source that was there, because we understand that it's pulling in and drawing in energy and storing it. So it's a very unique um, artifact that God personally designed and basically told the Israelite people how to build it and what to, and with the two cherub, it's just like a Tesla coil. So you on a Tesla coil, they have rods shooting at the top. Well, you have two cherubim that are solid gold that are a metallic substance that is protruding out of the top that displaces energy. It can draw energy.
One of the best conductors of electricity.
Exactly. So it's just when we sit and think about it, it makes perfect sense. The design that God used, but at the same time, it's also his throne on earth, because the way Ron Wyatt describes the Ark of the Covenant of what he saw is these cherubim, these wings on the backside, they came together, but the wings on the front side were pointing forward. So it was like the arm of a chair. So he said it actually looked like a throne. The cherubim made the back of the throne with their back wings, and their front wings made the arms of the throne. That he said that their front wings were not touching. They were out forward towards, if you were looking head on, they would be pointing towards you, and then the wings in the back would be touching together. So it looked like an actual throne. That's Ron Wyatt's recollection of it. What his description of what he saw, which again would make perfect sense because we know that this is the mercy seat, the throne of God on earth, and it's a very powerful artifact because, again, we talk about Joshua when Joshua was going through the Holy Land, leading the Israelites, and they came up on Jericho. They went around Jericho 3 times, the Bible says, and then they would blow the trumpet, and on that last time, the walls fell down. Well, the Ark of the Covenant was with them when they went around the walls of Jericho. So there is immense power with the Ark of the Covenant. And the Bible says that everyone who housed it, so you have Abinadab and then Obed-Edom. So when Uzzah reached out and tried to steady the Ark of the Covenant, it said it angered God, and Uzzah was stricken dead. And when David saw this happen, he became angry because his friend Uzzah passed away, but at the same time he was very fearful, of the ark. So he said, "Well, wait a minute. Let's just leave the ark right here for right now, and we'll come back to it later." So he left it with Obed-Edom, and Obed-Edom basically kept it at his home and hid it. And the Bible says that Obed-Edom, his family flourished and was successful and was blessed because they had the ark in their home. And once King David began to see what blessings that Obed-Edom was receiving because of housing the Ark of the Covenant, then he decided we need to bring it back to the city and let it be amongst the people. And so that's what David did. They went and got it and brought it into the city, and the Israelite people began to flourish as as a nation, having God's throne amongst them. So you see these rods on each side.
Yeah.
Now, most likely, I think these rods would be up at the top, but these poles, I won't say rods, poles were put into rings. And what that was that's the way they were able to move it, because they couldn't touch it, the box. But with these, they were wooden rods that would go on each side, and they could move it and pick it up and move it around. So there would be a man on each corner that would pick the box up and move it to where they needed it to go. And that's the only way that they could the only way they could actually move the box without being purified and going through the purification process, and wear the holy garments to be able to touch it was, and only priest could do that. So only Levites, the tribe of the Levites, which were the priest class of the Israelite people, were the only ones that could go through the cleansing process to be able to go into the Holy of Holies, or to be around the Ark of the Covenant. And when I say be around, tend to the Ark of the Covenant, I should say, because they would go through the cleansing, to touch it and go through the cleansing process to be able to do that. So we know that it housed the Ten Commandments, Aaron's rod, and then the holy manna, which is the angel food, if you will. But God sent down manna to the Israelite people to help them in the wilderness. So I think that's pretty cool if the Ark of the Covenant has been discovered and has been found, to be able to see those artifacts. Because, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I would say, so where because the Vatican swears they have it. You have the Ethiopian church swears they have it, and obviously Israel swears they have it. Where do you believe it is today?
Well, I'm here to tell you, if the Israeli people found it, they ain't giving it to the Vatican. You can guarantee. I can guarantee you that.
No.
So if Ron Wyatt's story is true, then I think it's in a undisclosed location in Israel. That's where I personally think that it is.
Yeah.
Because the Vatican, they're not giving it. I don't care who you are. They're not giving it to the Vatican if the Israelites found it. Now, if the Vatican found it somewhere, then yeah, the Vatican's going to take it into underneath the Vatican to the underground vaults and keep it there. But I really believe Ron Wyatt's story. So I believe that the Israeli people have it. They just haven't released the evidence yet. Because here's the thing: the Ark of the Covenant proves a lot. It proves one thing, that the Bible is 100% true. It does prove that.
I mean, if you have an artifact that if you touch it, you die, obviously has some type of supernatural abilities.
Correct. And so, for whatever reason, I believe that the Israel people, government, I should say, not people, but government, have it in an undisclosed location, and most likely they're researching it. They're trying to do
probably trying to weaponize it.
Correct. And what we do know is that Heinrich Himmler was
the Nazi.
Yeah, the Nazi Heinrich Himmler under Hitler was trying to find these ancient artifacts, because they believed that they contained power that would give them an advantage over the you know the fighting in World War II. So
And
yeah, go ahead.
so I just wanted to add on to that. Also, these artifacts that the Nazis were trying to find weren't just any artifacts. Artifacts. They were biblical artifacts.
Yes.
Talking
Yeah.
about the Ark of the Covenant, the Spear of Destiny, the spear that is said to have pierced Christ's side while he was on the cross. Also said to believe that any who holds the spear holds the keys basically to the whole world. Um, if you go
The
through the great conquerors of the world, or when I say great, I mean that they did their job as far as conquering the world, not necessarily great people. But you had Alexander the Great, you had uh, uh, Till the Hun, um,
mhm.
like basically the rulers of the world all said to believe to have had this spear of destiny at the time of their height and their ruling, and then as they lose the spear of destiny, they lose their grip on the world. Now that's the legend of the spear of destiny. I don't know if that's 100% true, but usually with legends, there's usually some truth to it.
And they also look for the Holy Grail. They
Yes.
all of these artifacts, and it's funny because we see Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the main faction in the movies are the Nazis that are trying to look for these relics, and Indiana Jones is trying to protect these relics from the the Nazis. So there's a little bit of truth there, in the Hollywood depiction. There's a lot of truth, probably. So
Yep.
um, it's just very interesting, the the technology that's behind the Ark of the Covenant. It's simplistic, but it's powerful because it's God's power that's in the Ark of the Covenant. So again, even though I'm explaining it at a basic level, there's more to it than that. So I'm just not trying to bring it down and delegit or make it illegitimate.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it's so implicit and sophisticated that it's more than what it is because God's power is in it. So
Absolutely.
I don't want to misconstrue people, that it's not that, it's not that big of a deal. It's a very big deal, and because it's God's um, throne on earth, so it's God's power and representation of His throne on earth, and which is amazing to me. It's just when you really sit and study the ark, like I have the past few days preparing for this podcast. It's become more real to me as I've done my research and looked at every aspect of what the ark is, and talking about where the ark may be. There is Libya, Ethiopia, which they say that they have the ark, and there's 11 churches in Libya, and I watched a film on it today. A lot of these churches have even been on Ancient Aliens, the series on the History Channel. You know, when we build a church, we build a foundation and build up. But these churches are built from the top down into the earth. They're totally carved into the earth. And one of them is a perfect cross. The whole church is a perfect cross that's been actually carved out of granite down into the earth. I forgot how many feet it is, at least 35 feet down into the earth. This whole church, and that's just one, but there's 11 of them. So there had to be some type of sophisticated technology to be able to do this, to
That's
build
wild.
these churches into the ground. And why would you want to build a church into the ground? This it's something to ponder and something to think about.
Now I know in Ethiopia, all their modern churches all have a replica of the Ark of the Covenant in the
Yeah.
churches.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
For sure.
to switch gears into another artifact that we want to go over, I'm super excited about, is the Shroud of Turin.
We've been wanting to do this one a long time.
We have, and let me tell you, y'all, this thing is the most wild. It's so wild. It is so mind blowing because for you don't know that what the Shroud of Turin is the most studied artifact that's ever in all of history.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing is, a lot of people don't know what the Shroud of Turin is.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Shroud of Turin is believed to be the cloth that Jesus was buried in. Now,
Bear cloth.
what's so wild about this cloth is that what they've discovered after taking pictures of it is there's a negative image of a man, very detailed. And I'm going to throw it up here so y'all can see, that has been imprinted on the cloth. It's not been painted. It's actually, they have disproved it to be man-made. And it's not man-made. It is completely natural. Now, I'll get into how it was discovered and stuff. The wild thing is this cloth has also survived 3 fires and still has not been burned. There's been parts of it that's been burned and damaged and that's been repaired. Now, they did take samples of it to predate the cloth, but what they did was that the first time they did it, they sampled the repaired parts and dated it back to the mid century. So, which is not obviously an accurate dating of it. And the reason we're talking about it now is we've been wanting to go over it, but the recent findings of what's just now been published is it dates back exactly 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
I do know this. I'd heard this and actually read it that they had
while you're
done.
Talking about, I'm gonna pull up the picture, but
yeah,
continue.
When they took samples of certain fibers of the shroud, they found residue of pollen that was on the shroud. Well, when they analyzed the pollen dated back to a plant. I can't remember exactly what plant, but this plant, this pollen, only existed at the time of Christ. It's changed since over the centuries, and so this particular strand of pollen doesn't really exist today, but yet it existed at the time of Christ. So that, to me, is an indication that it is legitimate, or at least the time is legitimate of when it was.
And this is an example of the negative picture that is on the Shroud of Turin.
You can't copy that.
You cannot copy that. How wild is that? That's insane. It's that is so cool. Now, the crazy thing is, okay, so I don't even know where to start. I get excited. But so everybody's biggest question is how is this formed, and that is detailed. That's wild. So it's a negative picture. and it's actually, the farther away you step back from the shroud, the better you can see it. Now, if you are 8 feet or closer, you can't see it; it disappears.
Mhm.
That's how, because this image is only 2 microns deep into the fibers. Now, when I say the fibers, these are woven fibers of cloth, how they traditionally made it back 2,000 years ago.
Mhm. And
Now, what were you going to
the
say?
the image is 3D. It's a 3D depiction.
Is
You
it?
can see
It is. It's a front and
depth.
back. This
Mhm.
is just the front of it, but it's 14 feet long, and it was wrapped basically. If you can imagine, you laying on a blanket, and you have the back of it covering your back, and it's flipped over covering your front, and they wrapped it from there. So,
Mhm.
and halfway you have the front half of the face, and the other half of the halfway you have the back side of it. So it's front and back. Now the wounds and the blood stains that are on, and there's no dispute from even the secular scientists who have studied this, that this is a crucified man
Correct.
that's on the shroud.
Mhm.
There's no debate about that. All parties agree. Where the parties don't agree is, this is Jesus or is this not Jesus? I believe it's absolutely Jesus, because if you
I believe
if
as
you take
well.
the Bible down, and there's, and my last reason caps all these reasons, but if you look at exactly his injuries according to the story in the Bible, they correspond perfectly, and you match the blood stains with the picture and the shroud.
Mhm.
It matches up perfectly.
Yeah.
Where he was stabbed, the crown of thorns, the
Mhm.
it matches up all perfectly. Now, everybody's big question: how does this image happen? Because this just doesn't happen normally. Well,
Mhm.
let me tell you. So, they've done tons of studies on it. They ruled out it's been painted. It's been this and that. It is 100%, all parties agree, this is not man made. This is a natural picture.
Mhm.
Now, the only way, because it's not painted on it, it's burned.
Correct.
Now, burned is a wild, it's a radiation burn. And
Mhm.
the only way that a picture like this could be imprinted on 2 microns deep and microns meaning how far into the fibers that it's been burned into the fibers. So all the way the fibers are completely gone. 2 microns in, it's just tinted. It's just charred a little bit.
It's
Uh,
a light intensive X-ray.
right.
That's
And
exactly what it is.
the only way that you could make an image like this is with 34 trillion watts of electricity, or energy. I shouldn't say electricity, just energy, at an exposure rate of 1/4 of a billionth of a second, according to
Wow.
Dr. Paul Delacio.
Mhm.
Yeah, Delacio. Now, what type of, in your imagination, could that be that's happened 2,000 years ago to that? Well, nobody else has a theory except the Bible has a theory, and that is the resurrection of Jesus. Now, I can I can't resurrect anybody, but I could imagine that it takes a lot of energy to resurrect somebody, and probably done in a flash.
Mhm.
And in a flash of a resurrection, that's how we get what you see on the screen right here, is a complete image of what Jesus looked like. That is what I believe. That's what I believe the science points to, and signed, sealed, delivered.
Well, there was a priest I saw. Easter was just a few weeks ago, and so there was a priest who was a medical doctor, and he dissected the 3D image of the Shroud of Turin. And what he did is he began when you put this under and you separate the layers, it even intensifies the image that much more. And
Oh yeah, and they've gone back with AI to obviously separate the layers and intensify it. And what I thought was the craziest thing was, okay, before we really knew about this shroud and the sorry, I got the hiccups, y'all. And this image is how similar it looks to the kind of archetype and depiction of Jesus that we all like learned in Sunday school and stuff. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
I just
Yeah.
sorry, I got the hiccups. Can't stop. Um, but yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool and that was pretty wild.
Well, when this priest that was a medical doctor started to break it down, you can't see it very well on this particular image, but right here on his right shoulder, when he when they went in and did the certain images to break down the different layers, you can intensely see that his right shoulder was dislocated. And you go down further and you see that on his right knee, there was a deep laceration or abrasion. You can actually see that on the right knee. And the way the doctor explained this, the priest doctor, I should say, is that in the Bible, when it talks about as he's carrying the cross member on his back to go to Golgotha, he tripped and fell, most likely because of exhaustion, blood loss, that when he tripped, he had that big piece of wood on his shoulders that as he tripped, that piece of wood dislocated his right shoulder and he hit on his right knee and put a gash on his knee. So it's amazing to me that this incident that happened over 2,000 years ago, that we have a physical representation in the shroud. And what the Bible tells us is exactly what we see in the shroud.
Yeah, and I just wanted to pull up a this is the full shroud. So when I was talking about it has a front and a back photograph of, so he would be laying here, or sorry, this would be he'd be laying on his back here, and the shroud would, oh, you can't see my mouse, but the shroud would be folded over the top of him like so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so wild. It's like I just find this stuff so fascinating that you have the, and again, what I believe is the image of Jesus.
100%. It's, and what's amazing, if and you might be able to find it, Brandon, pull up the AI image of Jesus when they overlapped the shroud with the image into AI. And I mean, AI constructed the image, and I'm sorry, it looks like a Nazarene Jew to me.
Yeah, give me just a second. I'm gonna pull this up. Let's see.
It's a very striking image, and I believe that when you see this
right
picture, okay, that when you see this picture of Jesus, this is actually the face of Jesus, or as close as representation as we'll ever get till we see him again, Brandon.
This the one that you're talking about?
No, that's not the one. That one is not as true. There's another one. I mean, the AI that I'm talking about, he looks like a Nazarene, has darker hair, darker skin tone. Let me see if I can find it.
Here's one more.
Because that one still that Jesus is depicted as European. You can tell there's a lot of European look in the features.
That one?
Well, that's getting closer. They've actually composed it. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah. Here, I'll pull some of these off.
I'll try to see if I can find it.
Oops. And also, Dr. Jeremiah Johnson has a nice book out all about the Shroud. It's a really good read. That I think it's called "The Face of Jesus" or "The Face of Our Lord" or something like that. But just Google Shroud of Turin, Jeremiah Johnson's book, and because he was a part of the team that just predated, because the Shroud was considered a hoax up until like last year, because the carbon dating that happened, they dated it back to mid-century and said it was a hoax. Now, now in mid-century, the Shroud was repaired because the I forgot which church that it was held at, but mysteriously burnt down. Actually, the past 3 places that this thing was held at mysteriously burnt down, and that's where these marks that you see on the Shroud is burn marks. However, the same, and when I say burnt down, I meant burnt down to the foundation, and this thing's the only thing that's left. That's a miracle in itself that this thing is, that we still have.
Yeah.
It was also said to be at one point in the Library of Alexandria until it burned down. Also, the Library of Alexandria is said to house all the ancient secrets of like how they built the pyramids and how they did everything that they did back then.
Yeah, I'm gonna find.
But I just think it's just so wild. The only way that this image can be formed is, let me repeat these facts, these numbers again. This is just, it blows my mind, and I find this stuff just so interesting. 34,000 trillion watts of electricity, or I mean, sorry, can't say electric energy. 34,000 trillion watts. That is insane.
Wow.
I don't even know what to compare that to. The sun? I don't know. But, and then this is even wilder. 1/40th, 1/40th of a billionth of a second. Now take that into, now let that sink in. 1/40th of a billionth of a second. That is a billionth, what, to the 40th power? 1/40th of a billionth of a second. Not 1/1 billionth of a second. 1/40th of a billion. That's insane. That is insane.
It is. That's Crazy.
And like, what does that even? Nothing could even do that
No.
except for, but that's and Jeremiah Johnson was talking about how that even before the stone was rolled over in the tomb, they were able to peek their head in and they could see that the shroud was on the ground. And at that point, they knew that Jesus was resurrected before they even
Hmm.
could see. Like they just saw the shroud on the ground, and they the scientists believe that that type of exposure, the shroud was probably glowing still with that much power exposed to cloth like that. It most likely was glowing from
Hmm.
energy.
Okay, I found this picture. Let me see
Okay,
if I can.
put it on here. I'll throw it up.
Oh,
Oh,
they have a
hold on.
picture of it.
I have to stop there, and then there we go.
Oh, let me go back. Yeah. So they have a better picture of it with his eyes open, and it's just amazing looking. But you can actually put it together because through AI they did, the cheekbones and his nose, and
Well, the cheekbone probably because he hadn't eaten it at all
yeah, and
through the whole
uh,
crucifixion.
yeah, this is even better depiction because they're taking the shroud and and overcomposing over the face over the shroud to get it to show the true depiction. But man, there's one that really, man, it's just, well, here you go. This is it right here.
Oh, that's
See
it. Oh,
how,
wow.
I mean, and see how they're superimposing it over the Shroud of Turin,
Yeah.
and so you get a sense of, and this is maybe even a better depiction. It's it's just amazing to me, as you can see the what they're doing. Oh, this is a better representation. See how
Oh,
they
yeah.
superimposed it?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's no doubt in my mind, Brandon, that when you look into the face of the shroud, that's the face of Jesus Christ. It truly is. It truly is the
I
face of Jesus Christ.
100% believe that. And just because the existence alone of the shroud
Yeah.
and this image, it just the existence itself is insane because of
Hmm.
what had to have been that and that's a, and they it can't be recreated. Like
No.
the only they came up with they did the math and came up with the numbers as far as how it could be created, but
Hmm.
there's nothing that could actually create that amount of electricity and for that split second of time, because otherwise anything more than that the whole thing disintegrates.
Exactly. Exactly. So it had to be a fraction, a very powerful, intense radiation at just a fraction of minute seconds to be able to impose that image into the shroud, and
And
it
I
took.
believe it was done. I believe that the shroud that because I mean he it could have just been disintegrated, but I think we were left with the shroud for a purpose,
Mhm.
and that was to find this negative image, because
Yes.
and again, the existence of the shroud itself is whether, and there's no debate whether this guy was a crucified guy. He
Yeah.
was.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
fact that the image is there and what it took to actually create that image, I mean, I think that speaks for itself. I really do believe the shroud
And
just speaks for itself.
if you notice on the shroud, Brandon, the arms are placed out in front,
Mm-hmm.
and there it shows at the top of the wrist that there's a hole. Well, what the doctor who was a priest was saying is that when the Romans, who were masters at torture, and you know, crucifixion was so bad that they outlawed it, that a Roman citizen could not be crucified because it was so bad. Now they could behead you, they could do other things to you, but they couldn't. If you were a Roman citizen, crucifixion was taken off the table for you because it was that horrible of a death.
Mm-hmm.
But the doctor who was a priest said that if the weight of a human body you just couldn't put a nail through the palm of the hand because the body
Yeah.
weight could not sustain it. But if you turn the nail, which is basically about the diameter of a railroad tie nail, and went into the palm through the hand, and the point came out at the top base of the um, wrist, where the depiction of the shroud shows it, that would be enough to hold a person to the cross,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Yeah, I remember that.
but the doctor said people don't understand that at the base of the palm of the hand, and at the base or the top of the wrist, there's a set of nerves that run along there. And he said that once that nail would go through and hit those nerves, he said it would be probably 1,000 times greater than having the worst, like when you hit your elbow and it just has that weird pain, numbing feeling. He says that it would probably be 1,000 times because of those nerves.
It'd be like electrical shock,
Oh,
basically.
absolutely. Every time that he would, because we know that crucifixion is a death of asphyxiation. So you're dying of asphyxiation. So every time that he would try to clinch up, to raise up, because that's what you have to do. You're on the cross, so you have to raise up to get a breath. And once you get a breath, you can relax, and then you have to raise back up to get your next breath. Every time that he would do that, it would be so excruciating, because not only his back looked like a pound of hamburger meat because of the cat o' nine tails scraping against the side of the cross, but having to pull up with his arm strength to be able to get a gasp of air before he would sink back down. And what we do know is that when the Roman centurion, to check to see if Jesus had died, struck him in the side, the Bible says that blood and water came out. Well, the reason why blood and water came out is because the sac around his heart and his lungs were filling up with fluid.
Yeah.
So the whole time you're trying to gasp for breath, your internal organ, your heart and your lungs are filling up with fluid. So, and
Yeah.
the Bible talks about that Roman centurion that speared him, the story goes that he could not see very well. He had some type of sty or something that was in his eyes that, I mean, he could see well enough to get around, but he didn't have the clarity of vision. And when the blood and water hit his eyes, his sight was restored to him. And he believed that Christ was who he said he was. And from that point on, he lived his life unto death. He went and was preaching the gospel. And finally, he became such a problem within the Roman military that they basically set a trial for him, brought him to the trial and said that you must denounce this Jesus or we're going to kill you. And he said, I never will denounce that Jesus.
Well, all the
saw him on the
disciples
cross.
died horrible deaths.
Oh,
Who was it?
absolutely.
Peter was crucified upside down.
Upside down, because he said, I am not worthy to be crucified right side up.
Yeah.
I don't want
You don't do that unless you believe it.
Exactly. And I mean,
And that
all they
means
had
that
to do,
he was scared. He was scared to denounce that.
exactly. He knew the truth.
Faith.
He had seen the truth.
He'd seen the truth. He was more scared of that than he was being crucified.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so all of the disciples, when Paul was beheaded, I think Thomas was filleted. John was they tried to boil John and he survived. And then they exiled him to the island of Patmos. That's where he wrote Revelation. So all of these men that followed Christ, that walked with Christ, that saw what Christ, the miracles that he performed, they believed it. And if it wasn't true, then why would you meet such terrible death if it wasn't true? Because all you would have to do was to denounce that Jesus was who he says he was, just say, no, it was all a lie. It wasn't true. And you could live.
Yeah. And at that point, why would you not? Because at that point, Jesus is already crucified.
Exactly. So, I mean, what's the point? If Jesus wasn't who he said he was, and he's already dead, then what's the point? Then keeping the lie alive if it was so-called a lie. But it wasn't. We know it's truth.
And also lies get exposed throughout time.
Correct. And we have record that Jesus appeared to more than 500 people after his death.
Months and years afterwards.
After his death. So we have this documentation. I think there's over
400.
I think it's 500 different manuscripts, and I forgot how many others. There's a lot of documentation.
There's lots of documentation of eyewitnesses. I want to say, didn't Peter or didn't he reveal himself to Peter like months after the crucifixion?
No, it wasn't particularly months. It was a few days, and because Peter, after Jesus had died, and then he resurrected, and the tomb was empty. I think Peter was so ashamed because he denied Christ 3 times, and he thought it was over. The ministry was over, so he goes back to fishing.
Yeah, that's right.
Peter goes back to fishing, and then as he's fishing, he is fishing, and all of a sudden, there's a guy on the shore that they don't recognize, and the guy on the shore says, "Hey, if you throw because they were about to give up because they had fished all night, and they didn't catch anything, and this person from the shore says, "Hey, throw your nets over to the right side of the boat and you'll catch some fish. And Peter throws his net over to the right side of the shore or the boat, and immediately his nets fill up with fish, and he looks up and he knows it's Jesus. He's done this before. This has happened to him before when Jesus came to him the first time and asked him to be a disciple. So he knew it was Jesus. He knew it was Jesus so forth that he took off his garment, the Bible says, and jumped into the water and swam to the bank and basically begged Jesus to forgive him for denying him. And Jesus never batted an eye. Jesus didn't scold him. He's, basically Peter's just sitting there saying, Jesus, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to be a disciple. I'm not worthy. And Jesus basically says, stand up. And you are to lead my ministry. You're the one that's going to lead my ministry, my church. It's going to be carried on through you. And so Jesus encourages him and never discourages him and never chastises him, forgives him and restores him. It's Peter's restoration, and he's been restored in the faith and in the ministry. And then what does Peter do? He goes on and leads the mission of the gospel, and then comes along with Paul after Paul gets converted, and they tackle the world. And Jesus says to these men, before he transcends, y'all will do greater things than I, because I'm going to leave with you a comforter, a helper, which is the Holy Spirit, and you will accomplish more than I did. And the Bible says that everything that the Bible talks about what Jesus' miracles, there's more that's not written down. So there's more miracles that he performed and did that are not even in the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, it's an amazing story. And, again, I believe the Shroud of Turin is the absolute burial cloth of Jesus. There's not
and
a doubt.
another reason why I was excited to go over this stuff. Well, I mean, people that have listened to all, it's very easy to get into the dark stuff of what goes on with as far as what we talk about. So it's nice to kind of talk about
the refreshing side,
the good side.
Mm-hmm.
But because part of what we do is expose the evil, but the other side is to expose the good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was excited to do this episode.
Yeah. And I just had a thought, since we've got a little time here, as Moses was in the wilderness with the Israelite people, and they're in the desert, and there's snakes that come out and start biting the Israelite people. And God tells Moses to form a golden snake and stick it in the center of the encampment. And when the people get bit, they look upon the snake and they're healed from. What is that? What
That's
kind of
wild. That's so wild.
Yeah,
what is that?
That's God's power manifest amongst the people to do what God asked them to do. And
it was a golden snake wrapped around a staff.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, or some type of.
It's wild.
That's where we get
what's the Red Cross?
The snake and the around the.
I just put that together.
That's where we get that from.
That's I just thought of that.
That's where that comes from.
That was a real-time discovery, y'all.
You put it together.
I just thought about. I was like, wait, snake wrapped around a staff. Wait, the Red Cross. What do? They heal. a snake wrapped around a staff. There's so many throwbacks, y'all. It's all over the place. You just gotta look for them.
That's it. That's it. And there's so much more technology that's in the Bible. Um, you know, what's the Tower of Babel? And I know that
I believe that. I think we should
we
go
talk
over the
about
Tower
that.
of Babel. Did you have you heard the theory that the stones that David picked up for to go after Goliath with was somehow a philosopher's stone based off the Hebrew translation?
I have not heard that, but I know that he picked up 5 stones because Goliath had 4 brothers.
Yeah.
So that he picked up 5 different stones because he was going to take them all on if he needed to.
Well, not necessarily. Basically, like a power stone is what the because when they originally talk about the stone, it's a word in Hebrew that just means stone. Then when it's mentioned again after he throws the stone and it embeds in it, what it says hits him in the head and then proceeds to sink into his head,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's used again when it talks about it at that point. It's using a Hebrew word that means basically like a supernatural stone,
Mm.
from what
Interesting.
I've gathered. But I got to look it up and get the deets down. Um,
Get some
but
more
it's wild.
detail. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is
pretty
wild.
wild.
It's
And also
yeah,
like why he chose to use his sword to cut Goliath's head off, because why did you cut their head off? Because he's a Nephilim and Nephilims can regenerate,
generate. Yeah,
and unless you separate the head and all this stuff, it's pretty wild.
yeah.
Crazy.
But what gets me is the bravery that David
Oh
had.
yeah.
You
Just
know,
like
here's this
yeah,
shepherd boy out here, and he's chastising his brothers because his brothers are in the Israel army, and they're scared to death of Goliath. And Goliath is cursing God, and David gets so mad he goes and picks up the stones, and then he chastises his brothers and said, "Hey, Goliath is talking about our God like this. Why don't you fight?" And they're like, well, Goliath's out there. And the Bible says that David did not walk out to fight
he
Goliath.
ran.
He ran out to fight Goliath. Because a lot of times we see the Bible stories depicted where here's this small little shepherd boy and he's just walking out there all scared. David knew that God was with him and he feared not. He did not fear Goliath because he knew God
Well,
was
that's
with him.
if you take that into modern day, that'd be like you going into a lion. I mean, you all heard Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, Daniel, right?
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, but just imagine hopping in a cage, like go into a zoo cage with a 600-pound Siberian tiger, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna fight this thing like head on. I don't need
Yeah.
nothing. I don't need a sword. Just give me that little sling and rock. And this tiger's going, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. But
Yeah.
that's pretty wild.
Well,
I
and
think we should go. I think we should talk about the Tower of Babel next.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Because I think the Tower of Babel is not just a tower. I believe it was a portal. They were trying to open up a
Yeah, I
portal.
think it was a Stargate portal,
Mm-hmm.
but because I do like this little. I know we started out with ancient aliens, and then now it's just kind of developed into a bunch of just ancient, not ancient aliens, but the pyramids, and then it's kind of taken its own flow.
Yeah, and just to think, like we talked about, to bring it full circle, and like in the beginning when we talked about the pyramids, it still baffles me that the quarry for the pyramids was 500 miles away from the pyramids.
It's a 10-hour drive.
I mean,
A drive.
unbelievable.
A 10-hour drive.
It's
That's That's
Yeah.
nuts. I'm
It's
sorry, but
absolutely nuts.
you're not getting anything. And when they redid the when they built the replica, they were only able to move what was it, a 2 ton, so 4,000 pound block 3 centimeters per day. You're not
Wow.
getting anything that from
They would
from the
still
10
be
hours
building it today.
they
I
would
mean,
still be building it. And not in 23 years in time. Are you kidding me? Something that big? Okay, they've been working on 65 for years. Highway 65.
yeah,
They've been working on downtown since I was a little kid. You think they're building a
yeah.
pyramid? No. No.
Yeah, there was definitely some sophisticated
And for what?
ancient
To,
technology.
to house some tomb that they didn't even put the pharaoh in?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
It just doesn't. Don't get me started.
Yeah,
I'll go on a rant. I'll go on a rant.
it's it's
But
it's pretty crazy, man. And what gets me is we see all over the world these different pyramids, and some of them even bigger than the Great Pyramid in Egypt.
like the one in Alaska?
The one in Alaska. There's also one somewhere in Asia that's bigger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt as
And
well.
supposedly there's one that's in the Amazon
Yeah,
that they found by lidar, and it's much big. It's twice the size of the Great Pyramid. And the one in Alaska is a black pyramid, which
yeah,
is wild. I don't know what that's
yeah,
about, but
yeah.
that's what we do here. We uncover the secrets.
This-
Secrets are no fun unless you tell everyone.
That's the truth. Yeah, it's it's pretty cool stuff. I mean,
Ugh.
it's just amazing. But I think the the Shroud of Turin is just so they've had so many. Well, let me tell you this. In my notes, the Shroud of Turin has over 170 peer review academic papers that is it's examining its authenticity. So 170 peer review papers have said that it's authentic.
Yeah.
170. So, you know, either it's the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, or it's a guy that looks like Jesus that was crucified, that was, you know,
And then
had the
somehow
shroud.
had 34,000 trillion watts of energy go through his body, enough to for 1/40th of a billionth of a second in order to imprint his face on there.
Yeah, yeah. That so
And on it, and if you go back, there wasn't like crucifixion wasn't like it wasn't like their number one go to thing. There wasn't that many people crucified, as far as
yeah,
like, you know what I mean.
yeah.
It wasn't. It was like saved for like special people.
The worst of the worst
Yeah, the
is what
worst
they
of the
say.
worst. That's what I meant by special.
Yeah,
But I didn't want to say worst of the worst because obviously Jesus was a man. But
but to them, they
yeah, to them he was
they
worse because he was a huge threat to their power.
yeah, yeah. And
But
even though, Pilate found no fault in him, he knew if he didn't crucify him, he would probably have a revolt on his hands. So
mhm.
that's
And
why he went
he
ahead.
would lose his
His
he would lose his
authority.
power.
Mhm.
But
That's what it all boils down to. That's why the powers that be won't tell us the secrets. They want to keep their power.
yeah, well, they tell us some of them, and they just expect us
Yeah,
not to believe them
yeah,
because they're so
for sure.
wild. But that's what we do here, folks.
Mhm.
Well, man, I am exhausted,
Yeah, I'm kind of exhausted too.
but this was a good one.
I think
Y'all, if
so.
y'all like this episode, please leave comments. hit the like button, follow us. Y'all know
Yeah.
the drill. Please, we did. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we did get a request about what was it? It wasn't. It was crap. Now I just kind of went blank. It wasn't pyramids. It was Area 51. Shout out to Charlie, who I work with basically, and he wants us to do an episode on Area 51. So
All
I
right.
told him to
Yeah.
look into it.
What is it? Is it Greer Lake or Green Lake out there as well? That's the other base that's tied to
It's
Area 51.
well, it's Nellis, and there's like a Site B
Mm-hmm.
to Area 51, but Area 51, the above ground place went is getting dismantled. They went underground with everything, but I told him we look more into Area 51 because we went over kind of Dulce Base and the Nellis Air Force Base, but we didn't really go over Area 51 at all. So we
And we
might have
need to
to.
look in it. You remember what was it during COVID that the people were going to try to storm Area 51 and release the aliens?
Oh yeah,
You remember that?
yeah.
Yeah, but they decided
Hey,
against it.
speaking of which, oh, did you see the video of the interview with the alien?
Like the one that was supposed to be taken like in the 80s or 90s,
Yeah,
where he's talking weird. The alien's
yeah. It
talking
was the
weird.
stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was so fake. I'm sorry, but do I believe that there was an interview with the alien? Yeah. But do I believe that that was a video? No. Are you kidding me? They would not let that go.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody
You
would lose their job.
lose more than their job, probably.
Yeah. Somebody would have a strongly worded letter written to them.
Somebody be going to the train station is where they'd be going.
Somebody be booted out of this world into outer space,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
gone.
Well, if we could ever go into the underground of the Smithsonian and the Vatican and underneath the Sphinx, we might find everything we want to know.
Yeah. We just got to keep digging.
That's it. That's it.
All right, y'all. Well, I hope y'all like this episode. Yeah, again, like, comment. It really
Share.
helps the channel to get more traction, and send us a follow. It really does help us to do this. I know we do this for fun, but more people we reach out, the more fun it is for us also to get feedback
Absolutely.
as well. So,
Yep.
until next
For
time,
sure. Yep. Kind
you
of
gonna sign us out.
We're out.
We're out. Well, come back to us in the portal.
Mm-hmm.